Let's talk about career and money goals. You can't talk about your career without talking about money because that's what we're doing this for, anyways. I recently did a podcast interview on the Amber Stitch Show, which I will link in the comments so that you can watch the full episode. But in that episode, we talk about a focus on money, where we're really trying to have better conversations, whether it's with our spouse, whether it's with your boss, right? You need to have conversations about money. And a lot of times people don't know how to have those conversations or not having those conversations because of the emotion associated with it, right? Like money is a very emotional topic. And so you might avoid having conversations. You might avoid getting real with yourself about your spending habits. You might avoid having those conversations at work, when you need to talk about a raise or increase or time off or anything like that that involves money. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Stick with me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jovita, and I started Grow with Jovita to help provide career advice and tips so that you can advance your career. Today, we're talking about how to have these money conversations at work. When you are wanting to talk to your boss about getting a raise, you need to focus on 3 different things when it comes to talking to your boss about your pay. That is your belief, your approach, and the ask. Those are the 3 things I want you to focus on. So when I say belief, the first step in even getting ready to have this conversation is your belief that you deserve this raise. I think that a lot of time when I say the emotion is you might not feel confident in asking because you're like, do I deserve the raise? So instead of being all in your head about how to explain this to your boss, start with how you feel. How do you feel that you are adding value in your job? How you are performing consistently, right? If it helps you, actually write out those things so that you have a nice reminder of like, these are the things that I have been doing. This is why I deserve this raise. It's going to help you be more intentional in your conversation and not get thrown off when you're having the conversation with your boss, right? So the first step is just the belief in what are the things that you already know that you're doing that you deserve to get this raise. And remember, when you're writing down like your beliefs, think about the emotions associated with that, right? Like, are you feeling accomplished and you're like ready to go have this conversation? Or are you in a place of resentment because maybe you've been thinking about having this conversation for so long and you haven't brought it up. And so now you have these feelings of negativity around it. So you really need to be in a clear mind space and not go into the conversation of like, well, they owe me this, right? Like you want to make sure that when you're getting your belief and figuring that piece out, that you're working through your emotions. The next piece that you want to think about is the approach that you're going to go into this conversation. That means how you're prepping this conversation, what words are you going to use, because you need to be very intentional about the words that you're using. Do you know the boss's communication style? And if not, how are you going to maybe compensate for that? The timing that you ask is so important. I think a lot of people miss that of like, do you know what's going on in your team, in your department, in your boss's world, to where are you asking this at the right time, right? There's all this stuff that you need to think about in your approach before you just go out and have this conversation. You also need to be prepared that they're not going to give you an answer right in the moment. So you need to have, again, your emotions in check of being receptive to whatever they're going to say to you. Maybe they have some questions for you. Maybe they need to get back to you. So you need to have all your approachability and like self-awareness and emotional intelligence on point so that you're approaching the conversation in a positive way and leaving it in a positive way. One thing I will say is like the better rapport that you have with your boss, the easier this conversation is going to be, especially if this isn't the first time you've talked about maybe your growth or development. So if you can kind of piggyback on a previous conversation you've had about like, hey, if I do XYZ, these are the things that you told me I need in order to earn this raise. I feel like I've done those now. Can we talk about when this is going to go into effect? So again, just remember, think about your approach in how you are intentionally bringing this conversation up. Think about their communication style, because remember, everybody receives information differently. So you don't want to come at them in a way that's going to make them defensive or that's going to make the conversation be misunderstood. And then you're coming out of it feeling like that didn't go as well as I wanted, right? And again, with the timing, like if the company is in the middle of a downfall, or like sales numbers are low, or like people just got laid off, like this isn't the time to be asking for a raise, right? So it's going to come off where you're not maybe as aware of the team and the situation, and you don't want to come off that way, right? So just think about these things when you're planning your approach. Finally, the ask. This is the actual part where you need to now be prepared for asking for the raise. You want to be confident in how you're communicating. So if you did step 1 and step 2, like I said, which is getting your belief, your emotions, your self-awareness under control, and then number 2, planning your approach and being prepared for what's going to happen in the conversation, you should feel way more confident in your ask because you've got all your ducks in a row. But again, you want to be prepared for how your boss or this other person is going to respond. You can't expect them to be like, yep, I'm going to give you this raise in this one conversation. It might require some follow-up conversations. It also might mean that they need to go check with their boss or their budget or some other things. They might not be able to make the decision right then. So don't go in having such high expectations of like, I'm leaving this meeting and I've gotten a raise, right? You do want to kind of set your expectations up to, I'm going to have a follow-up meeting. I may have to answer some additional questions. You also want to be prepared for whatever feedback they're going to give you. Maybe there are some things you thought you were doing to achieve this raise that they're still saying, hey, you've missed the mark. Now, obviously, it would be great if you had gotten that feedback sooner, but if they're saying there are things that you need to work on, you want to be prepared to ask some specific questions about what those things are, right? So if they're like, hey, I need to actually see you do this, it's like, okay, so how would you like me to do that, right? Like, how would you like me to be involved in that? What can I do to show you or demonstrate to you that I am ready for this, XYZ opportunity? So you need to be prepared to ask some of those follow-up questions as well, because you don't want to leave the conversation not getting your raise and then not knowing what to do to get it next time. That's just going to lead to, again, those negative emotions or resentment or feeling like you have unclear expectations, and nobody likes that. It causes stress, it causes frustration. So again, be prepared for the ask for the raise, but be prepared to also ask some clarifying questions in case they give you some feedback or let you know that there are some other things that need to be looked at before they can decide that you're getting this raise. The number 1 tip here during the ask is pay attention to your nonverbals. Don't let your nonverbals ruin this conversation, right? You want to leave a positive taste in the mouth of your boss, right? You don't want them going to their boss or to look at this thinking you're coming at them in a negative way. So make sure that you're controlling your nonverbals, make sure that you're listening, make sure that you're maintaining proper eye contact, your facial expressions, tone. You don't want to give a tone of irritation or frustration or demanding or entitlement. That's just going to make your boss defensive, and it's less likely to get you what you want. A couple quick other tips when you're having this conversation with your boss about a raise. Here are some mistakes to avoid. Don't compare yourself to other people. If you're going in and saying, hey, I deserve this raise because this other person is making more money and I feel like I should be making as much as them, that's not a good look, right? You don't know what conversations your boss is having with that person. You don't know what their development is like. Even if that person is telling you things, you don't know everything. So don't come in a conversation talking about what somebody else is doing. This is about you. How are you adding value? Why have you earned it? Not based on somebody else, okay? The second mistake you want to avoid is talking about how long you've been at the company. Well, I deserve a raise because I've been here such and such amount of time. Again, that isn't a representation of how you're adding value. Just because you've been at a company a long time, that isn't enough to necessarily get a raise. You might get a merit increase in your annual review, but again, your performance, the way you add value, the way that you show up, that's the stuff that you want to be talking about. Don't just say, oh, well, I've been here a long time and now I expect a raise, right? And then finally, don't bring up your personal reasons. You might want to earn more money because you have maybe something you're saving for. Maybe you have debt you're trying to get out of. Maybe you just want to, live a different lifestyle, buy a new house, buy a new car. These are not things that you should be talking to your boss about, right? Like, you're not asking for a raise so that they can support whatever choices you make in your personal life. You need to discuss how you're adding value. Don't bring up those things. So again, this was just a quick coaching tip. Watch my full episode with Amber Stitt to get more details. focus on money, how to use EQ to advance your career, and talk about these money goals. There's also going to be conversations you need to have with your spouse, your family as well. So it's really important that you get really comfortable knowing yourself and knowing your emotions around money so that you can have better and intentional conversations. And then, like I said, just be mindful of the timing of when you're asking. Don't ask at the wrong time. So avoid those mistakes. I hope these tips help you, and good luck in getting your next raise.